Hi guys, you're here with Zoe Arthurs from Business Basics. Thanks for watching. So just to introduce the topic of marketing, which isn't something we've covered before in the tutorials, I thought it'd be quite interesting just to have a look and see how marketing has evolved and where it's originally come from. So I'm just going to give you a really quick overview of a timeline, which you can use in perhaps some of your referencing, and it'll also show you some really cool links to some websites about how marketing came about. So it's not a topic that I'm going to spend a huge amount of time on, but really it's just for your information and something that you can refer to should you want to in future. So we're going to have a look and consider what marketing is. Now, the Chartered Institute of Marketing, so the CMI, has actually said that, or the CIM, sorry, has said that the definition of marketing is the management process responsible for identifying, anticipating and satisfying customer requirements profitably. Now, what we shouldn't be doing is actually throwing money at marketing if we don't have a strategic plan in place. So really, we need to be able to identify exactly what it is your customer is wanting from you, be able to satisfy that really positively so that actually they return to your business on multiple attempts, and you're not having to consistently win new business and throw a lot at your marketing budget. And hopefully that in turn will then increase your profits because it'll actually be driving people to your business. So we're just going to have a look now at some more sort of definitions so that you can just sort of get to grips with what is actually meant by marketing, because quite often in business people say, oh, you know, I'm going to do that through a X, Y and Z marketing strategy, but actually they don't understand necessarily what marketing is. So in a sort of a very broad or very crude overall view, if you like, marketing is basically concerned with meeting your business objectives. So it's objectives that you have set out by your business at the start, and it may be objectives that you have identified in your plan that you want to achieve. And you're going to do that by providing customer satisfaction. Now that is really key because actually unsatisfied customers will go off to your competitors. So it's all about you winning their business, capturing their imagination, selling them the idea that actually you are far better than anything else out there in terms of the market. And that you are therefore going to satisfy what it is they're looking for from a particular product or service. So the whole point of having your marketing in place is it shouldn't just be a case of, oh, I'm going to throw, you know, this social media post up at the moment. Oh, I'm going to do a load of flyers. Oh, I'm going to put an ad in the local paper. It should be a really sort of detailed plan about how you're going to execute your pricing, your promotion and your distribution of ideas and about your goods and services to your consumer. So I've talked a lot in previous tutorials about knowing exactly who your customer is, and that is key because actually if your customer, for example, is, I don't know, let's just pick a very random demographic, 65, they're semi-retired, they've got a disposable income, perhaps they go to the corner shop, you've worked out what their routine is likely to be, maybe they pick up a newspaper, but you focus your marketing strategy on social media, actually you're going to miss your target market by a mile. So this is where I said it's really important that you actually need to draw, and sometimes that does mean pen and paper and stickmen imagery, I'm afraid, who your consumer is, because quite often it's not actually who you think it's going to be. And we're going to cover that in target market identification in a later tutorial. But realistically, marketing is about the management and the exchange of relationships. So it's about how you communicate between your self, your business and your consumer. And basically that's what marketing is. So it's a communication between you and your customer. And it has to be done positively in order for you to be able to identify their needs and satisfy their requirements so that they keep coming back to you as opposed to your competitors. So just a little bit about where it all began, because it's just quite fun to sort of work out where these things came from. It actually came from primitive times where animals were basically bred for their family and then they would overproduce. So they would take them to market and they would barter and they would basically sell them. So they would obviously haggle on the price, which is absolute must, and it's a practice that we still do now with everything we do in business practice. but it's really where they came. And it basically moved on from there between the 18th and 19th centuries, the Industrial Revolution and the mass markets. And it all became down to the handshakes and the relationships that people built between the factories, the workers, and those who were buying the products, and how they were going to satisfy those needs. And that's how they managed to secure order books with mass production. Factories started popping up everywhere. And then they realised very quickly, and I'm sure not too dissimilar to the accountancy ratios we've shown in a previous tutorial, that they were looking at reducing their costs, increasing their revenue, and ultimately they worked out very, very early on that this was a way of increasing profitability within their business. So I want you guys to think about the three different models of marketing. So there are, I've just taken very rough models for you just to consider at the moment about whether you're going to think about your production orientation. So this is a marketing method focused purely on production, and it basically ignores your customer needs, but it does focus purely on a great product, whether it's needed or not. Now, this can be extremely risky. Because actually you're not able to test the market and you are just relying on the quality of the end item or service. But if you get it right, product orientation is fantastic. However, it's not one that we would widely use in today's market. Then you have the sales orientation. So this focuses on closing a deal. So these are best attributed or linked to when you have a double glazing salesman or an energy salesman, they're ringing you and they're basically trying to get you to replace something that you already have. And it's not necessarily because their product is better, although they may be claiming that. It's more to do with the fact that they're just trying to get you to change supplier at this point. And it's just focused on closing a deal. So it's not the fact that their product is new or innovative. It's not that it's a new emerging or a product that's sort of emerging into the market as a brand new item that you've never seen before. But your sales orientation model would focus on replacing something which customers already have, just to get their change in supplier. And then you have market orientation, and this is focused on your customer needs. So this really is down to research, focus groups, surveys, identifying your target customer, your market, whether you've got any new or existing products which you could slot into new and emerging markets in the future. And it really is focused on meeting the needs and desires of your customers, and it's really based on the product mix. So it's how you communicate your product, your price, your promotion, your placement, etc. And you really do listen to your customers. So as soon as you start to see a downturn in a particular line, you reinvent your line with a brand new product, which your customer has saying that they basically need. So it really is focused on giving your customers exactly what they want. Now, whilst that's absolutely great, it can be quite difficult if you're consistently having to change that and use that as a business model. So please be aware of that. So I wanted to just share with you guys this website. It's blog.hubspot.com. It's a fantastic resource, but it's got a really good infographic on the website, and it just goes into a little bit more detail about how marketing changed. So it's basically saying in the 1450s to 1900s, printed advertising appears, and that's where Gutenberg invents making mass printing possible for the first time. So at this stage, they were really looking at printing in newspapers at that time and some posters. In the 1730s, magazines became really fashionable, and that was fantastic. And that's where the earliest billboards in 1867 were recorded. And then obviously people started jostling at that point, haggling for prices because they wanted to be the first on the billboards. And then you've got obviously the 1920s where the radios came into play, television in 1941, and the first commercial for Bulova clocks reaches 4,000 TV sets, which was a huge milestone in marketing. Then you will probably know that obviously marketing grows up. Telemarketing in the 1970s was a huge hit. It was really, really popular. It frustrated a huge amount of people, but actually those businesses were booming at that particular point. And then it was obviously the digital age. So we had the first computers, we had first dial-up internet. I can certainly remember first dial-up internet. It was extremely painful. You used to sort of set it going and then 20 minutes later be able to connect to the internet. But either way, it was a fantastic resource for connecting the world. And obviously then we had the mobiles, the internet, etc., etc., and where we are today. So it really was an evolving market, and where we're looking at now search engine optimization, which is something we'll have a look at in a later tutorial, you can see that actually it wasn't, although marketing has evolved and the methods that we use and where we may put our money in terms of delivering the marketing messages we want, actually it's just a different tactic. The messages that we're putting out there are probably still very, very similar. It's still about communicating with your customer, and that's a really key point to remember when you guys are considering your marketing message. So it really is just about you guys sharing your story, sharing your mission, your ethics, your values, your business story, and telling them about you and how actually you're going to evolve as a business to meet their needs and requirements. So that was just a really quick overview of how marketing started. It's very random, but I thought you would actually quite enjoy to see actually where marketing came from and how it's evolved slightly. But it was just a useful tutorial to give you sort of three sort of orientations of marketing so that you can actually identify which hole you sit in, and then we can look at the different marketing strategies you use for that. See you in my next tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye.